The books that we are reading from are from the Secret series, and today we'll be reading If You Are Reading This, It's Too Late. Dun dun dun! I also, please bear with me, I'm reading this upside down because that's the only way that I know how to make it upside right for you guys. So, without further ado, if you're reading this, it's too late. By Pseudonymous Bosch. Chapter 32, The Nuts Table. The XXXXXXX school, city of XXXX, XXXXXXX. Lunchtime. I'm sorry, I still can't tell you the name of Cass's school, or where the school was located, or what it looked like, or almost anything else about it. Of course, I trust you, but there's always the possibility that, though not the fault of your own, you will toss this book out the window and it will fall into the wrong hands. While I'm on the subject, you do remember that all the names in this book are made up, don't you? Cassandra, Max, Ernest, all of them. Yes. I'm reckless and irresponsible, but there is a limit. Even for me. I would never tell you my characters' real names. If somebody reading this book, somebody, I said, not you, were able to track one of them down, well, I don't even want to think about the consequences. I can tell you this. It was a school that they lived by strict rules. There were, first of all, the principal, Miss Johnson's rules, which were strict enough, but usually understandable, like no skateboarding in the hallways, for example, or on wearing your underpants outside of your clothes. But there were also many other unspoken rules that were made by nobody in particular, and that made no sense at all. One of these pointless rules was that you ate lunch at the same table with the same people every day. If you changed your table, it could only mean that you were in a fight or something truly drastic had happened. The lunch table was clustered outside in a part of the schoolyard known as the Grove, even though there weren't any trees nearby. At the center table sat Amber and her friends. Amber, you may remember, was the nicest girl in school and the third prettiest. At least that's what everybody said. Other tables spread from there, like planets orbiting a sun. Cass and Max Ernest, I am sorry to report, did little to rebel against this system. In fact, their table, located on the very outermost fringes of the Grove, was so well known that it had the name the Nuts Table. The name doesn't make any sense, Max Ernest complained almost daily. It should be the No Nuts Table, since it's for kids with nut allergies. I think people think the Nuts Table sounds funnier, said Cass told him. But she stopped short of a full explanation. If Max Ernest didn't understand, the other students thought that the kids at the Nuts Table were nuts. That was good for him. Cass had no allergies herself. Nonetheless, her diet was very restricted because she saw lunch as part of a survivalist training. Everything she ate had to be capable of lasting for months without spoiling, whether in an underground bunker or outer space pod. Thus, fresh fruits were prohibited, but fruit roll-ups were permitted. Sandwiches were out, but cup of noodles were okay. Trail mix was the most ideal food of all. It was a whole meal in one. Don't worry, as Cass often pointed out to her nervous lunch table companions, there were only nuts in her trail mix. Just there just just peanut butter chips, and they were artificially flavored for Cass's patent sub-chip trail mix recipe. See book number 1's appendix. That was hard to read upside down. Cass first visited his house. Oh, wait. I skipped the whole thing. My bad. Today, however, Cass hesitated before digging in to her trail mix. A handwritten note was sitting on top. Cass grimaced in annoyance. She hated when her mother put notes in her lunch. It was so embarrassing. Not to mention, the notes usually consisted of a list of not very funny things Cass was supposed to do or remember. She pushed the note back into her reusable into her reusable waterproof lunch sack. She would read it later. Maybe, unlike Cass, Max Ernest did have several nut allergies, to which nuts he was never sure, all as well as a host of other food-related ailments. But what was more remarkable is he always brought 2 lunches to school, one by his mother and one by his father. He was always careful to eat at the same amount of each. Max Ernest's parents were divorced, and everything in his life would be doubled or divided. Where Cass first visited his house, she couldn't believe it. The house was split down the middle, each side designed and decorated differently, with neither parent ever stepping into the other parent's side. Today, he didn't seem to be in a hurry to eat either of his lunches. So, I learned a new trick. Want to see it? He asked, already laying out his playing cards. It's called the Four Brothers. Max Ernest had been reading up on magic for several months now. Not just how-to books, but also histories and biographies of famous magicians. Every time Cass saw him, he had a new story about an Indian sword swallower, or a 19th century flea circus, or an essay on the first time a magician made an elephant disappear. For today's trick, Max Ernest removed the 4 jacks from his deck and fanned them out in front of Cass. See? 4 jacks. They're brothers, and they didn't like to be separated. He gathered the jacks and placed them in different places on the deck, separating them, or seeming to. Then he cut the deck. Now, watch how the jacks all come back together. He rifled through the deck and showing her how they'd been moved next to each other, or seemed to. How about that? He was getting better, Cass thought, but not that much better. It didn't help that Max Ernest had a big pimple on the end of his nose. Between the pimple and his spiky hair, each strand, as always, cut exactly the same length. He looked more like a hedgehog than a magician. Pretty good, said Cass diplomatically, but I think I've seen that one before. only with 2 kings, and they weren't brothers, they were friends. That doesn't make any sense. 4 kings would never be friends. They would be rivals, fighting over their kingdoms. And even if they weren't fighting, I doubt they would have that many friends. It's not very realistic. Cass was about to point out that sometimes brothers could be rivals, like Petro and Dr. L. They were twins, but also mortal enemies at the same time. Plenty of people have 4 friends, or even more. Amber, for instance. Amber considered herself to be friends with their entire school, but Cass decided not to say anything. You had to choose your battles with Max Ernest, otherwise you'd be arguing all day. Besides, neither of them had very many friends. In that respect, he was correct. In fact, she was Max Ernest's only friend, and as much as she hated to admit it, he was her only friend as well. Unless you counted their old classmate, Benjamin Blake, but his parents had put him in a special school this year, and he'd never said very much anyway, at least that they could understand. Well, I still wish you would concentrate on training for the Tertius Society instead of magic tricks, she said. We don't know what we're training for, said Max Ernest, a little exasperated. Besides, Petro was a magician, wasn't he? You mean he is. He is still alive, remember? We don't know that for sure. Somebody else might have written the letter who had the same initials, or who was pretending to be him. Or maybe he was dead after writing it. I mean, it's been 4 months. Why hasn't the Tertius Society contacted us again? Even if Cass gave him a look. She hated it when he suggested that Petro might be dead, or that the Tertius Society might not even exist. She'd spent too much time prepping and contemplating such a thing. The letter said that Owen would get in contact with us. And he will, she said with more confidence than she felt. Owen was the one who'd helped them rescue from the clutches of the midnight sun. He had a habit of switching identities. For months, Cass and Max Ernest had scrutinized every face they'd encountered, but they'd never detected a single false mustache or fake accent, or even any suspicious car accidents. Owen was a terrible driver. Well, maybe he already came. Max Ernest feared consistently, but it was like an abduction. We actually took an oath under hypnosis, and now we're operating under secret instructions. Cass laughed. If nothing else, Max Ernest was always willing to consider all the possibilities. Was that funny? He asked, suspicious. Cass nodded. He grinned. How about that? To Cass... I don't know what this word is. Chagrin. Chagrin is apparently what's going on here. To Cass's chagrin, Max Ernest's magical aspirations had done nothing to diminish his previous, even more unlikely desire to be a stand-up comedian. Is that from your mom? asked Master Ernest, changing the subject. He was looking at the note still sticking halfway out of her lunch bag. Irritated, Cass pulled it out and said, Cass, here's the grocery list for tomorrow. Meat. No need for A, just... I have to read this correctly up this way. Cass, here's the grocery list for tomorrow. Meat. No need for A quality. Duck. 3. Tell the butcher you'll owe. He'll understand. 12 potatoes. Mashed. Peanut butter. Mother. Now that she was looking at the note, it seemed strange to Cass for several reasons. First, her mother had gone to the grocery store yesterday. Second, they'd never had a duck in the house, let alone 3. Third, her mother always bought potatoes whole and then mashed them at home. Cass wasn't even sure you could buy pre-mashed potatoes if you wanted to. Fourth, her mother never signed her notes Mother. Usually, she just signed M. If she was feeling especially loving and playful, she might write Mommy. Sometimes, when she wanted to show Cass she was treating her like a grown-up, she signed Mel. But Mother? Not that Cass could ever remember. A little feeling of excitement started tingling in her toes, bubbling through her stomach, then burst out her mouth. Hey, look at this, she whispered at Max Ernest. It's from them. I know it's a code. Can you believe they got it into my lunch? It was only in my locker for an hour. Do you think Owen is here? Right now? She looked around, and the only person she didn't recognize was an Asian boy sitting at the next table, plugging in his guitar into a little portable amplifier. A frown appeared on Max Ernest's face as he studied the note. What? You don't think it's a code? It has to be. It's definitely not from my mom. No, I agree. It just looked like it's in code. It's just kind of weird. Superstitiously, Max Ernest pulled out what looked like a game player of some kind out of his pocket, sent to him by Petro. The handheld device was actually an Ultra Decoder 2, specially designed for decrypting codes, and contained over 1,000 languages and even more secret code in its memory. Holding the grocery list under the table, Max Ernest pointed the decoder at it and scanned. I don't know. The decoder didn't pick up anything, he whispered. If it's in code, there's no system to it. Cass sighed. Could this note be from her mother after all? The Skelton sisters gave it to me as a prize when I joined the Skelton Sisters 100, said a familiar surging voice. It was Amber, walking by with a friend, Veronica, the second prettiest girl in school, and not even the 4th or 5th nicest. As far as Cass knew, neither girl had yet turned 13, but somehow, over the summer, they'd aged by several years. It was the glittery makeup, Cass decided. She couldn't believe it. Miss Johnson just let them wear it. Never mind their mother and the tight clothes. Amber held up a sparkling cell phone decorated with a big red heart. The ringtone automatically changes to a new Skeleton Sister song each time. She bragged loudly enough for the entire school could hear her. So I'll know the songs by heart by the time I go to the concert, if I get in. It's almost sold out. Romy and Montana Skelton were the teenage twins who'd raised to fame on television and video, but who now commanded a vast commercial empire, the Twin Hearts TM Inc., that produced everything from fuzzy pink backpacks to stinky sticks of lip gloss. Cass had particular hatred for them, partially because Amber had particular love for them. Hey! Oh, here, listen! Amber started pressing buttons on her phone, but before she could make it ring, the schoolyard was filled with the sound of feedback and the twinging, sliding whir of an electric guitar. It was the new boy at the table, channeling Jimi Hendrix. If you ask your parents, they will probably tell you that Jimi Hendrix was the greatest rock guitar player who had ever lived. What they might not tell you is that he also liked to wear wigs. Feedback, by the way, isn't that high-pitched squealing you get when a microphone picks up sound from a loudspeaker. A sound which, if you think about it, came from the microphone in the first place. Before Hendrix, most people thought feedback was as trash as was as trash noise, but turned into music. Cass laughed aloud. The timing was perfect, interrupting Amber just as she was about to subject them all to some awful Skeleton Sister song. She looked over at the young guitarist. He was strumming and straining out into space, as if he were alone in a garage and not in a school with hundreds of other people. He was tall for his age, and he had a thick mop of long black hair that fell over his eyes. He wore bright green tennis shoes and a t-shirt bearing the words Alien That is a very odd font for this. Erich? We rock so hard, they hear it on Mars. I bet that's the new kid. From Japan, Cass said. Max Ernest remembered Miss Johnson made the announcement. Cass laughed. Meanwhile, had not gone unnoticed by Amber. Hey, Cass, are you okay? Asked Amber, stopping at Cass's table, but not without taking a good look at the guitar player first. Yeah, I think so. Oh, good, said Amber sweetly. I was worried that maybe the guitar hurt your ears. No. Cass didn't like it when Cass didn't like where Amber was heading. I just thought it would be really sensitive, 'cause, you're so, No, we don't know, said Max Ernest. Her ears are totally normal, Amber. Her ears are totally normal, Amber. She hears the same stuff you do. Cass's ears, as everybody knew, were a sore subject for Cass. Not only were they big and pointy and like elf ears, they tended to turn bright red when she was angry or embarrassed or in any way upset. Or when people talked about them. At the moment, they were turning a violent shade of scarlet. "Oh, hi, Max Ernest," said Amber as if she'd only just seen him. "I totally didn't mean it as an insult, but that's so sweet of you the way you defend her. Are you guys like a couple now?" Max Ernest choked on the 2 identical carrot sticks he was eating, and then he turned very pale. Amber glancing covertly at the guitar player to see if he was taking this all in. He didn't seem to be. "We are not a couple," said Cass calmly as she could. Considering so much blood was rushing to her ears, it felt like a firestorm. The difference was she had an abstinence blanket to ward off a real firestorm. "Oh, that's too bad. You guys make such a cute couple," said Veronica. "Come on, stifling laughter, they sauntered away. "Sorry, I forgot to check the volume, yo," said the guitar player, sounding... I'm going to flip the book over now. My brain is not reading these correctly. Sorry, guys. "Sorry, forgot to check the volume, yo," said the guitar player, sounding I can't read it correctly either. Decidedly un-Japanese. He reached down to disconnect the instrument from his amplifier and turn his head to the nuts table. "I heard that girl Amber was the nicest girl in school. Didn't really seem like it." "Yeah, that's kind of funny, huh?" stammered Cass, trying to cover her ears with her hair, which was very difficult because her hair was braided. Anyway, don't worry about it. I thought your playing was... She searched for the right word. "Cool." "Thanks," he said with a big smile. "I'm Yoyaji. You know, the new kid." "Yeah, I kind of guessed," said Cass, desperately hoping her ears were turning back to normal. "You can call me Yoyaji, if you want. That's what my friends call me." "Oh. Hey, Yoyaji, I hate to break it to you, but you have a little more apologizing to do." She nodded towards the principal, who was striding across the yard in Yoyaji's direction, her big yellow hat flapping with each step. Yoyaji made a face of exaggerated fear. "Oh, it was nice knowing you, or meeting you, or whatever." "Yeah, nice to meet you too. Oh, forgot, I'm Cass. This is Max Ernest. Say hi, Max Ernest." She tugged on her friend's sleeve. "Hi, Max Ernest," said Max Ernest, who had been stewing in tormented silence ever since Amber had asked if he and Cass were a couple. Before Yoyaji could reply, Miss Johnson arrived at the table. "Up," she said. "Now march." She pointed in the direction of her office. Yoyaji shrugged and headed off, guitar on his back. Cass watched him go, wondering how this new, unexpected element might change the carefully controlled social environment of their school. Did she need to take any precautions? Suddenly, Max Ernest sat straight up. "That's it!" "What?" asked Cass, distracted. "Meet. Look at the note," he said. See how it says meet? No need for A quality? That means no need for the letter A, because meet means meet with an E. So we have to meet somewhere? I knew it, said Cass, forgetting about Amber and Yoyaji and even her red ears. What about the next line? Duck 3. Tell the butcher you owe? Max Ernest finished her. Well, that could be about the letters too. And I guess if U was the letter U, then O was O. So meet Doc 3? Max Ernest nodded. And the rest was easy. 12 mashed potatoes? Oh. And the rest is easy. 12 potatoes, mashed, has to be 12 p.m. And peanut butter, that must be Petro Guillermo. How about that? Said Max Ernest. But I still think it's weird he didn't use his normal code. There's not even really a key. So what? You figured it out anyway. Just like I knew you would. Max Ernest nodded, smiling, and wrote the decoded message next to the grocery list. Meet Doc 3, 12 p.m. Petro Guillermo. End of chapter 31. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much. And remember, no matter what happens in this crazy life, there will always be little goals, big dreams. Bye, guys.